This seminar is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Consult with your medical provider for medical advice or treatment. Although the presenters try to keep the information in this seminar as accurate and timely as possible, the speakers and Mather Hospital assume no duty to ensure the seminar is error-free. The speakers and Mather Hospital are not responsible or liable for any claim, loss, or damage resulting from you viewing this seminar.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for our HealthyU webinar series. Today's webinar is Stress and Heart Disease and is sponsored by Jefferson's Ferry. At any time during the presentation, please feel free to enter any questions you may have using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We'll answer as many as we can within the time allotted once the presentation concludes, and your questions will remain anonymous as always. Today's presenter is Marie O'Brien. Marie is an adult health nurse practitioner and the coordinator for the Integrative Pain Management Program at Mather Hospital. She's an active member of the American Society for Pain Management Nursing and member of the Consortium for Nurse-Led Care. In her current position, Marie and her team seek to expand the use of holistic and integrative modalities to address not only the physical aspect of pain, but address the psychosocial, emotional, and spiritual aspects as well. Marie, we're so happy to have you today. You can go ahead and share your screen and get us started.
Thank you. Just give me 1 second here. All right. Am I good?
Looks good.
All right. Awesome. So thank you for joining us. February is American Heart Month. And since the COVID-19 pandemic began, we may all have felt like we've skipped a beat or two. Stress has soared while physical and mental health have just declined. This month, the American Heart Association has challenged us to all reclaim our rhythm, to move forward toward creating or rebuilding healthy habits that work best for each and every individual, to take control back of our physical and mental well-being. And because we all have hearts that need care and nurturing, hopefully some of the strategies that I share with you today will be helpful for that purpose. These are the objectives for today: to explore the current scientific evidence for the relationship between stress and cardiovascular disease, to explore the impact of stress on cardiac health, and then discuss actionable strategies to mitigate stress as well as to enhance your overall heart health. So before we get started, I know that we had our Mather Hospital disclaimer. I always like to provide my own disclaimer. This presentation is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. I always advise my patients and anyone that I discuss health and wellness with to maintain a close relationship with your own healthcare provider. Maintain your health and wellness screening. The interventions that are discussed today are not intended to diagnose, treat, or prevent disease. Healthy lifestyles lead to an overall enhancement of your health and well-being. Health care, as opposed to disease care, is enhanced through a cooperative approach with you and your healthcare team. And I would like to remind you that during this presentation, we will be reviewing strategies to help you mitigate or soften your stress response. And some of these are intended to be interactive. So in case I don't say it later on, in case you are driving a car, operating a forklift, taming a wild animal like a lion or a bear, balancing on a tightrope, or doing anything that requires your full attention for your own safety or the safety of others. Listen to the strategy and then practice at a time when you can be involved safely. Please feel free to share any of these strategies with your friends or loved ones. And the interventions that I'm sharing today is not an all-inclusive list. There are many, many different things that can be done to help with your own stress, and finding what resonates with you is a gift. So I hope to share some things with you that may resonate with you, but if they don't give up hope. There are many, many things out there to help with stress, to enhance the health of your heart and the rest of your body. So I'm going to share some statistics and facts about heart disease to help support the reason why we need to engage in stress reduction. Heart disease really knows no borders. Cardiovascular disease, including heart disease and stroke, remains the leading cause of death globally, taking more than 17.6 million lives. And that number is really expected to rise by 2030 up to 23.6 million. Women are at an increased risk. Heart disease claims more women's lives than all forms of cancer combined. Heart disease and stroke right here in the US affects more than 1.5 million people through a heart attack and stroke every year. More than 800,000 deaths per year in the United States occur as a result of cardiovascular disease, and it affects the US in terms of dollars by hundreds of billions each and every year. Cardiovascular disease is also the greatest contributor to racial disparities in life expectancy. Now, this month is Go Red for Women Month, so I just wanted to touch real quickly on how heart disease affects women. For such a long time, women thought that they were immune from heart disease, and that is just not the case. Now, there has been an increased awareness of the effect of heart disease on the female population. However, despite this increase in awareness, only about half of women recognize that heart disease can be their #1 killer. And often we think of heart disease as something that can only affect people who are maybe a little bit older. And in fact, 1 in 16 women over age 20 have coronary heart disease, and which is very, very concerning. Now, let's talk a little bit about the current evidence surrounding heart disease and our topic for today, stress. There are many recently published studies and reports that link stress and heart disease. We're only going to be highlighting a few, but I would really be remiss in simply telling you that stress management is so important for heart health. I would be remiss without sharing some of these hard facts and recent scientific findings related to this correlation. Now, just this past year, the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, released a study that investigated the link between what's known as myocardial infarction, and that's what myocardial ischemia, which is one of the primary causes of a heart attack. And in this report, they released information saying that psychological stress is associated with poor clinical outcomes in patients who have previously had a heart attack. The author of the study said that previous research has implicated psychological stress not only as a trigger of acute coronary or acute heart events, but also as an indicator of the prognosis, or how well a patient who has had cardiac heart disease will do in the future. So that is very concerning. The National Institute of Health also released a study, and I'm just going to pose out to all the people on our call today, and you don't need to answer, but just think to yourself, if you were given the task of public speaking, would that make you nervous? If so, you're not alone. Lots of people get really anxious or worried with the idea of having to speak in front of others. The National Institute of Health actually took the task of public speaking and utilized that in a study to mimic the impact of mental stress on cardiac function in adults who were older. So they looked at 918 people, and 1 in 6 of the people who participated in this study were given the task of speaking in public. And there was a significant amount of impact on these individuals' heart function and their coronary arteries. And these were people that they were comparing this to adults who did not have, who were not engaged in any other stressful activity. So this was really concerning and really speaks to the idea that just the stress of speaking in public for some people can impact their cardiac health. And that was published by the National Institute of Health. Now, that's just one small stress inducing activity. Let's talk a little bit about what we have all been going through over the past several years. The pandemic-related stress is and has been affecting heart health. JAMA also published a recent study to measure the effect of COVID-related stress on health by looking at the prevalence of something called stress-induced cardiomyopathy during the pandemic. So they looked at a group of people who had cardiomyopathy or enlargement of the heart that was made worse just by stress. So what they found, I'm so sorry. What they found is that there was a significant increase of stress-induced cardiomyopathy during COVID-19. So that was extremely concerning of the impact of stress during this very stressful time that we've all been going through. So multiple studies are currently exploring the unseen consequences of the pandemic, as well as the strategies that have been used to help reduce the spread. This study that is up on the screen right now looked at the impact of stress, coping, and sleep related to COVID-19. Sleep is so important for our own overall health and well-being. And this study looked at how COVID impacted impacted the ability to sleep and how that was associated with stress. So really very concerning that because of the stress from the pandemic, people are also not sleeping. Now, as human beings, we all require human connection. We need a sense of community, which is essential to our well-being. One of the most brutal punishments that a prison can inflict on an inmate is solitary confinement. And yet, unless you were an essential employee during the height of the pandemic, so many people were isolated for many months. And we continue to not be able to socialize in the ways that we had prior to the pandemic. So Johns Hopkins actually just released a study looking at the unequal cost of social distancing. So they were really exploring how social distancing and keeping people separate from one another impact their emotional health and their overall well-being. And what they found is that people had an increased self-report of stress and a decrease in their overall feeling of well-being related to the social distancing that we've all been doing throughout the pandemic. So we are all stressed. A recent study released by the National Institute of Health tells us that 1 in 2 US adults report that COVID-19 has had a negative impact on their mental health. And life is uncertain, and our response to this uncertainty is expressed through our emotions. So things that we feel, such as stress, anxiety, worry, sadness, grumpiness, fatigue, apathy, and frustration, these are all normal responses to this abnormal situation that we are finding ourselves in. So we know that stress is a normal part of life, but when it becomes constant without any means to mitigate or soften its impact, this is when it leads to unhealthy effects, such as an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. The American Heart Association published in their clinical journal Circulation a scientific statement. So that's circled in red up on your screen. And what they cited in their journal is that mental health can positively or negatively impact your physical health and risk factors for heart disease and stroke. The title of their article was Psychological Health, Well-Being, and the Mind-Heart-Body Connection. So this is coming from the American Heart Association, who has recognized that there is a true link between your mind and your body. And they went on to say that stress may contribute to poor health behaviors that are linked to an increased risk for heart disease and stroke. So these include smoking, overeating, lack of physical activity, an unhealthy diet, perhaps being overweight, and not taking our medications as prescribed, as well as the increased stimulation of our fight or flight response, which is what happens when we're worried or anxious about something. So that has an immediate impact on the physical stress that our heart will endure each and every day. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So while stress does not always cause health issues for everyone, choosing poor methods of stress management can have a negative effect on our overall health. Often when people are stressed, they may choose to do things that, perhaps they wouldn't do had they not been so stressed. So there has been an increase in smoking, alcohol consumption. Unfortunately, there is a steep increase in illicit drug use. I'm sure that I'm sure all of us know someone who has reported having that extra COVID-19, meaning 19 extra pounds that were gained through the course of the pandemic. So stress eating and eating unhealthy foods for comfort and relief. So all of these unhealthy ways of dealing with stress are really counterproductive and can lead to a variety of health conditions that can really impact your overall heart health. So this is a journal article published in atherosclerosis, and this summarizes recent knowledge on that mind-body connection that the American Heart Association was talking about. And it really highlighted the idea that there needs to be more study on the mind-body connection, but to recognize that it really is truly there. And the mind-body connection is really the best way to help us mitigate our stress response. So we've identified that stress is bad for our cardiovascular health. But if we were to manage our stress, what would that do? Would that reduce our risk for heart disease? Well, the simple answer is yes. Managing stress is good for your health and well-being. Negative psychological health and mental health is associated with an increased risk for heart disease and stroke, and positive psychological health is associated with a lower risk of heart disease and death. So before we go any further, let's talk a little bit about this term stress. Now, it's something that we hear thrown around quite often, but what does it actually mean? You know, often people say that they're at the end of their rope or they feel fried or frazzled. And we all know that this term really refers to a feeling that we can all relate to. So the term stress, as it currently is used, actually came about in 1936 by Hans Seeley. And he defined it as a non-specific response of the body to any demand for change. Stress is how the brain and the body respond to any demand. So any type of challenge, whether you're going to speak in public or you have a life-changing or traumatic event, that can be stressful. However, not all stress is bad, but it's when we are not able to frame the stress in the right way that it becomes challenging for our physical health. So stress affects everyone really depending upon your perspective. So as I said before, people experience stress from one time, from one day to another. We will all experience stress, whether you wake up in the morning and realize that you didn't set your alarm and you're late for work, or you have a deadline. There's many different stressors that everyone will experience. And there's many different types of stress which can carry physical and mental health risk. So a stressor can be a one-time or short-term occurrence, or it can happen repeatedly over time, such as what we've been experiencing throughout the pandemic. And some people may cope with stress more effectively and recover from a stressful event more quickly than another person. So what's stressful for one person is not always stressful for another. So I just love the two pictures of the lions that are on this slide. In one photo, there's a lion charging, and obviously that's a scary situation if you found a lion charging at you. But just the idea that it's a lion does not necessarily mean that it should be a stressful event, because as you can see, the picture on the other side of the slide, the gentleman is having a very fun time with a lion. So just the fact that it's a lion does not mean that it needs to be stressful. It just depends on the situation that we find ourselves in. So when stress is occurring, it can have an impact on more than just your heart. It really can affect your entire body. When we feel stress that's not properly managed, it can manifest in headaches, depression. It can affect your ability to sleep. It might increase your rate of breathing or your blood pressure. It can impact your liver. If you're a diabetic, it can cause your blood sugar to be escalated. It can increase your aches and pains. There's so many different ways in which unmanaged stress can affect our actual body, and it is different for everyone. So let's talk a little bit about our stress response. So as you saw in the pictures on the previous screen with the lion. So one photo was a lion charging, and the other photo was of a lion that was very docile and enjoying some time, with a person. And really our stress can be similar. So depending on what your perception of the stressful event may be, it can either be something that motivates you, or it can be something that paralyzes you. It can be something that um, we recognize is there, or it can be something that leads to you having a physical consequence because of that stress. And that's where our mind comes in. So your mind is a filter that can protect the body from stress, or it can amplify the effect of stress. And the interesting thing is that your brain or your mind does not necessarily know the difference between a real or a perceived threat. Has anyone ever sat down to take an exam in school? Think back and recall when you were a child in school. And for some people who have test anxiety, and that may even occur if you're an adult going back to school, test anxiety can cause that flutter in the stomach, a headache. Some people find themselves rushing off to the bathroom when they have to take a test because they get a nervous stomach. That response to the test is the same response that happens to your body when you're in a physically stressful situation or physical danger, such as if you were in the woods and found yourself having to run away from a bear or a tiger. So your brain identifies a stressful situation, whether it's taking a test, whether it's being in the woods facing a wild animal. Your brain does not know the difference between something that is harmful to you or something that is not physically harmful to you. Negative thoughts can cause the same thing. So often we may find ourselves ruminating or thinking about things that could possibly be worrisome. And that can cause a physical response in the body. So your brain does not know the difference between a physical threat, an emotional threat, or a perceived threat, something that maybe we're just worried about that may really not have any consequence, but yet we worry about it. So in addition, though, the frontal lobe of your brain has the capacity to alter our perception of our thoughts to help mitigate or soften the harmful effects of the stress that we experience within our bodies. So all stress needs to pass through the filter of our mind to occur in the body. We think about what the stressful situation may be, and the mind will filter that before the physiologic effect will happen in the body. So what that means is that we have the ability to perhaps change our perception of a stressor to make it less of an insult on our physical body. And not all stress is bad. So in a dangerous situation, stress signals the body to be prepared to face a threat or flee to safety. And in these situations, your pulse will get a little bit faster, your breathing will be a little faster, your muscles are poised and tense, ready to act, and your brain will increase in activity, it will take in more oxygen, and this is all part of survival. So it can be motivating and it can be helpful in these situations, but it's when these situations, when that stressful situation is something that happens over and over, like being in a pandemic where we're constantly worried about things, that's when there is a negative impact long term on our bodies and our heart. So, how do we find balance between the stress that's harmful, the stress that motivates, and what to do in between? Well, the good news is that there are ways to manage this stress. And if you take practical steps to manage your stress, you may reduce the risk of all those negative health consequences that we talked about early on. So let's get down to business and discuss some practical tips that may help you cope with any unhealthy stress. So, true health is a balance between your body, mind, and spirit. If one is depleted, the other one may not be able to function properly. Your spirit, which is your reason for living, your purpose, your motivation, your inner strength. For some people, it's a higher power. For others, it's something else. And this is personal for every living being. So we need to balance our spirit, our reason for being, our mind, which is our thoughts, and our physical bodies. And they all need to be in balance and working together. And we're going to talk about how to get to that point with some of these strategies. So first and foremost is to be observant, to be able to recognize the signs of your body's response to stress, such as difficulty sleeping, maybe a change in your behaviors or habits. For some people, it may be that they are turning to alcohol more often. For other people, it may be that they're turning to food. For some people, it may be that they're less patient with their family or loved ones. For other people, they may find that they're carrying their stress in their shoulders and they're getting pain in their neck, or they are getting tense in their back and they're getting back pain or stomach discomfort or an overall uneasy feeling. Being able to recognize for you what is normal and what is outside of your normal. Being observant of your own body and your own response to what's happening around you is the first step. And that can be helped through something called mindfulness. So mindfulness is a buzz term that's been going around for a number of years. It's kind of a hot topic, in many different fields. And it's often misunderstood, so when I speak to my patients about mindfulness, often they think about mindfulness in terms of meditation. And what I'll hear from my patients is that meditation is too hard and they don't have time for meditation. They can't very easily go sit on the top of a mountain and clear their mind and say, "Om." But that's not really what mindfulness is. Mindfulness refers to activities that bring us into the moment. So asking yourself, am I in the now? Am I focused on what I did yesterday? Am I focused on what I'll be doing tomorrow or later on today? Or am I really present? Being mindful is a practice that is helpful not only for your own stress, but also for the stress of those people around us. We are human beings, not human doings. So sometimes we just need to be. And that is really what mindfulness is all about. So if you notice in the little cartoon, the person has their mind full of stuff, their car, their house, their phone, people, instead of the dog that's walking next to the person who is truly being mindful, just enjoying the moment, enjoying the surroundings, and being fully present. And that is what mindfulness really is all about. And there is a lot of research on the value of mindfulness. So this is just real brief, a randomized controlled trial of mindfulness-based stress reduction to help patients who are in cardiac rehab. And mindfulness can be very beneficial for patients who have gone through any kind of cardiac event. So I'm going to invite you to experience a mindful moment. And a mindful moment can be just that. You know, where is your mind in this moment? Because your body is always in the present. No matter where it is, your body is in the here and now. But where is your mind? So ensuring that your mind and your body are in the same place at the same time. So if you're having lunch or a snack, it's lunchtime right now. Yes, you're listening to me, but for a moment, if you're eating, concentrate on your food. Where did it come from? Who grew it? Who prepared it? Take a moment to thank the farmer, the fisherman, or the animal caretaker, or your higher power for the gift of your meal. And as you proceed with your meal, make sure that you're chewing your food thoroughly. You know, so often when we don't eat mindfully, we eat very quickly and we don't chew our food thoroughly, which decreases its nutritional value. It decreases your body's ability to absorb all the nutrients. But as you're chewing thoroughly, think about the texture, the taste, the smell. Think about your belly. Is your belly feeling full? Are you still hungry? Are you satisfied? When you're eating, are you enjoying your meal with a friend or your family? Or perhaps you're sitting in front of the TV or the computer? Are you socializing in the moment? The ability to share a meal with another person and connect as a human being will have a positive impact on your heart health. So I encourage you, practice mindful eating. So whether it's lunch today, dinner later on tonight, breakfast tomorrow, at least one meal a day, practice mindful eating. Another simple and yet powerful stress reduction strategy is breathing. There's so much information and literature that's been arising to demonstrate the value and the physiologic effect of breathing on our overall level of health and well-being. Studies about people who engage in diaphragmatic breathing. So that's where you engage your diaphragm, which sits just under your lungs, where we are in a purposeful manner, often mindfully, taking a slow, deep breath that allows your diaphragm right underneath your lungs to drop, your belly to expand softly, and your lungs to fill with oxygen, and ensuring that that rate of breathing is slow. So in several articles that I looked at, they're looking at around 6 breaths per minute, can really help enhance our vascular tone. So that's the tone of all of your blood vessels, and improve your heart health. So it seems like such a small thing because we breathe, and often we breathe, most of the time we breathe without thinking about it because we don't have to think about breathing. But changes in our body affect our breath. So if we're running a race or giving a presentation in front of a large group of people, our rate of breathing may be a little faster. Changes in our mind affect our breathing. So if we're thinking worried or bothersome thoughts, that can lead to an increase in your respiratory rate. And yet, if you think about something calm, that can decrease your respiratory rate. Changes in your breathing affect your body. So slowing down your breathing, which we all have the power to do, so we can mindfully control the rate of our breath, can decrease your heart rate as well as your blood pressure. And then changes in your breathing can affect your mind. Focusing on your breathing, where you pay attention to your breath in and your breath out, is one of the easiest ways to achieve a mindful moment. So for now, I'm going to ask you to join me. We're going to take a mindful breath. So as you breathe in through your nose, pay attention to what the air feels like going in through your nose. Is it warm or cool? And as you breathe, imagine or just picture, envision how that air is dropping down to the bottom and the bases of your lungs, your diaphragm dropping, your belly expanding slightly, and exhale through your mouth slowly. And as you're breathing, paying attention to the air, paying attention to where the air is going as it goes in and out, being mindful. And there are many different breathing strategies. There's many apps for your phone to help guide you in mindful breathing. Lots of things on YouTube or different apps that are extremely helpful in pacing our mindful breath. And even without technology, doing a strategy such as square breathing. Square breathing is where we breathe in to a count of a certain number. So perhaps it's a count of 3 or a count of 4 to start off. So breathing in to a count of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, holding your breath for a count of 4, 2, 3, 4, breathing out to a count of 4, 2, 3, 4, and then pausing to the count of 4. And repeating that so that your mind is just focused on the breath and the counting. And if you do that for a minute or 2 minutes, whether it's in the bathroom, in your break room, in your car, in the parking lot before you go into work or someplace that's a little bit stressful, it is amazing how fast you can feel in the moment. And notice how you feel, that perhaps your heart rate is a little bit slower and you feel a little bit more calm. Another intervention that is extremely helpful is doing a body scan. So this is part of being mindful and being able to notice what's happening in your body. Being mindful of your body can allow you to be connected. And it's helpful to get you ready for restorative sleep, or if you're feeling stressed during the day. Doing a body scan meditation where you're noticing your whole body from the tips of your toes all the way up to the top of your head daily, making it a daily practice, is helpful so that perhaps when you're feeling more stressed on a different day, you're able to notice the difference. So being in tune with your body when you're feeling good is just as important as trying to be in tune with your body when you're not quite feeling so well. So in doing a body scan meditation, you can do this on your own. It's extremely helpful when you're trying to go to sleep at night. If you're having any challenges sleeping, just noticing your body, what it feels like, what your clothes feel like on your body. You know, if you're wearing socks, what do the socks feel like around your feet? or if your feet are on the floor. Is the floor cool? Is the floor warm? And noticing each part of your body so that you are in tune with your body. Imagery is also another powerful way to help us feel more stressed. Imagery is a natural thought process using one or more of the five senses. It involves right brain thinking, and it can be the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious mind. It is an active response process. So first we imagine, and then we create. And often people will say, I can't use imagery. That's not me. I can't do that. But if you can worry, you're using your imagination, because worry is something that happens based off of what you're imagining in your mind. So if you can worry, you can imagine. And if you can imagine, you can do imagery. Guided imagery uses the power of imagination to help us positively affect our mental attitude and helps potentiate positive outcomes. It can enhance active innate healing within the body, and often it's done through scripting by perhaps a practitioner or an audio recording like an app for YouTube. And it can be very valuable to help us feel more calm and relaxed. So in doing imagery, just the thought of something like a lemon can allow you, if you were to just think about a lemon, often you can feel yourself salivating a little bit. You might feel the backs of your jaw start to feel a little achy because your body is getting ready for you to actually put a lemon in your mouth just because you're thinking about it. And that is the mind-body connection. The practice of gratitude, which is a true feeling of thankfulness for something or someone, can help enhance a feeling of peace or calm. And I challenge each and every one of you not only to be grateful or express gratitude for someone else, but to express gratitude for yourself. Every day, say thank you to a part of yourself. Perhaps thank your eyes. You can thank your hands, your ears, thank your heart. But expressing gratitude to yourself can go a long way in allowing us to feel less stress. Sleep is a necessary stress mitigator. So sleep is essential for our bodies to rejuvenate and to help rationalize stresses that we experience each and every day. If you are having difficulty sleeping, either falling asleep, staying asleep, or not waking, feeling fully refreshed, consult your healthcare provider. Mather Hospital has a sleep center to help people who are experiencing issues with sleep. And I also encourage you on a daily basis to practice good sleep hygiene. There could be an entire lecture on sleep hygiene, but there's lots of information available on the practice of good sleep hygiene. So I urge each and every person to make sure that you're getting good restorative sleep, because it will go a long way in helping mitigate or reduce the effect of stress on your heart. Journaling is another fantastic intervention and has so many health benefits to reduce stress. It can help us declutter our mind, taking what's in our mind out and putting it on paper. It is extremely helpful to practice journaling before bedtime. Often our minds are filled with all kinds of racing thoughts when it's time to go to sleep. So being able to take those thoughts out of your mind and put them on paper can allow your body to feel assured then it doesn't need to hold on to that stress because it's now out of the body and onto paper or a computer for those of you that like to journal on a computer. But practicing journaling can be extremely helpful to reduce stress. Exercising is another powerful stress reduction strategy. If you are not a regular exercise participant, meaning that you're not exercising each and every day, start slow, a minute or two of walking if you haven't done any kind of physical exercise, and gradually build. If you have pain, shortness of breath, or you don't feel good when you're walking, talk to your healthcare provider and partner with them so that you can build up your level of exercise and endurance. There's lots of research on the value of just 30 minutes per day of walking to boost mood and improve your heart health. For those of you that need extra support in trying to help with your stress, biofeedback can be extremely valuable. There's lots of different technological devices that are useful in helping us recognize what's happening in our body, which can then allow us to have a positive impact. HeartMath is a over-the-counter biofeedback device along with a Muse headband, lots of different devices that are able to help us see on a phone or on a computer or in virtual reality, as well as your Apple Watch or a Fitbit or an Oura Ring. So these types of devices allow you to see objective data about what you're feeling in your body so that you know how to change your breathing or your thoughts to reflect a less stressed physiology. Meditation, there's lots and lots of information on meditation and the value that meditation can have for our heart health. Meditation is cost effective and inexpensive, and it's widely accessible. And according to the American Heart Association, they have published on multiple occasions the value of meditation for heart health and the reduction of stress. When we're feeling stressed, often we forget to do things that are fun, that bring us joy. So I invite you to brainstorm some pleasant activities. Develop a list that you find enjoyable, write them down, and then when you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, you can go back to that list and do something fun and joyful for yourself. Additionally, setting goals and priorities, deciding what must get done now and what can wait, and then learn to say no if a task is too overwhelming or you feel like you're taking on too much, and be mindful of what you have accomplished at the end of the day. So looking at saying thank you to yourself, giving yourself a pat on the back when you have accomplished those goals and priority. Letting go of things that are out of your control and remembering that we cannot control every situation. That would be impossible. Acknowledging that there are stressors that you cannot change, and there are things that we need to accept. It's like that serenity prayer, right? So being able to recognize what you can change and accept those things that we cannot, and knowing our own limits. And looking at our perspective. Sometimes it's just a matter of changing our perspective and reframing it in a more positive way can be helpful. But remember that we are all in this together. We are more alike than we are different, and we are all moving through this unknown together, because times of hardship will create greater times of joy. So remember to stay connected with your family and friends. Connection is good for the heart. Practice relaxation. Find joyful activities that make you happy. Create healthy behaviors. We're coming down to the end, but I do want to remind everyone, food is medicine, and choosing nutritious food that can support your body and support your overall health is imperative. The American Heart Association has a lot of valuable resources on their website, along with the National Institute of Health. Knowledge is power. So being able to educate yourself with what is available through valid resources such as the NIH and the American Heart Association.
Marie, thank you so much. That was such a fantastic presentation. We are coming down to the wire, but we have a couple of minutes. So if anybody has any questions at all, please feel free to enter them in the chat at the bottom of your screen, the Q&A section. And I'll leave this these resources right up on the screen for just another second. Getting a lot of great job, Marie. That really was so informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great. Give it one more second. All right, it looks like we are just about good to go. Everybody who attended today, you'll be receiving an email with a link to complete a survey, just so Marie can receive her feedback, and we can see any other topics you guys might like learning about in the future. This is being recorded, so you guys will all receive an email at a later date with the link to review. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their afternoon. Marie, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.